Have you seen a family that always fights? They fight over money, over inheritance, over favor from parents. They fight because of favoritism, and so there's jealousy within. They fight because of competition among siblings. They fight because someone is irresponsible and putting everybody down. They fight because of envy, and some are more successful than the others. They fight because someone keeps on offending another member of the family, and this has been going on for years. David's big family was one of them. Last week we talked about the sword and the sorrow in the house of David. David's firstborn son, Amnon, sexually abused his half-sister Tamar. Because of that, she lived a desolate life. Her brother Absalom took care of her, but he was silent about what happened to her. Chapter 13 verses 21 to 22 say, when King David heard all this, he was furious. And Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. He hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. So why was he silent when he hated his brother? We'll find out in tonight's lesson. In all this, the big problem was David did not judge and punish Amnon for what he did. He was only furious. Why? Well, you can obviously see the conflict of interest. It was hard for him to judge his firstborn, the presumptive heir to his throne, because he did not execute justice as he should. 2 years later, he lost his 2 sons. Amnon was murdered and Absalom escaped as a fugitive. So that's the title of our message for tonight. David loses 2 sons. Absalom murders Amnon. This is part 26 of our series, The David Saga. We will study 2 Samuel chapter 13 verses 23 to 39. Remember this, evil acts have moral consequences, such as his sons also became sexual immorals and murderers. They learned that from their father David. Too bad they got the bad part of David. Chapter 12 verse 10, now therefore the sword will never leave your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own wife. So that was God's judgment on David. And evil acts have corresponding punishments from the Yahweh. Verse 11, this is what the Yahweh says, I'm going to bring disaster on you from your own family. So evil deeds have powerful influence. David, being the king, influenced his sons naturally. And the sad part thing here is that they got the worst of him. In today's story, we will see how Absalom, after a couple of years, got an opportunity to avenge against his brother Amnon for his sister Tamar. David did not see this coming. So let me share to you 3 points from this lesson. Letter A, revenge does not resolve offenses. We need to keep that in mind. Chapter 13 verses 23 to 29. Since David has become known to be covetous, adulterous, murderous, polygamous, and violent, his sons received the wrong values from him and they acted worse than him. That's sad. That is why parents should actively teach righteousness and consistently model that. Verse 23. 2 years later, when Absalom's sheep shearers were at Baal Katzor, near the border of Ephraim, he invited all the king's sons to come there. Sheep shearing is basically removing the wool from sheep. Since the cold season has ended and spring has begun, sheep do not need their thick wool. Removing their wool would make them more comfortable. And of course, after harvesting the wool, they would sell them to other people. Now, it seems that the occasion in this verse was the Hag Hagetz or Reshit Hagetz. It was a festival or celebration of the shearing of the sheep. This took place once a year at the beginning of the spring, usually late March. It was a lively occasion that brought together people of different localities to enjoy banquets fit for royalty. Now, priests were given the first fruits of the shearing of the flock. Verse 24, Absalom went to the king and said, your servant has had shearers come. Will the king and his attendants please join me? It was not surprising for Absalom to invite everybody to the occasion. Everyone was looking forward for it. However, he had a plan. He waited 2 years to get his opportunity against Amnon. The anger in his heart never left him. Why? David never defended Tamar. The king never punished Amnon for his crime. So now Absalom was using this occasion as an opportunity to avenge his sister. Now, why all the king's sons? Maybe he wanted to show how successful he was, though he was not the firstborn. He was very powerful. However, that was just a cover. He invited everyone so that it would not be obvious that he was targeting only one person. And he wanted to show them that he would be murdering Amnon. He was not trying to hide it. Verse 25, "No, my son," the king replied, "all of us should not go. We would only be a burden to you." Although Absalom urged him, he still refused to go but gave him his blessing. Even though David refused to go, to lessen the pressure on Absalom to make the event very special, he still gave the blessings to his son, which was very nice, of course. Verse 26, "Then Absalom said, 'If not, please let my brother Amnon come with us.' The king asked him, 'Why should he go with you?' Absalom was persistent about one person, Amnon. Since Amnon was the firstborn, he could be David's representative, so everybody would come. However, David became suspicious of Absalom's insistence. Perhaps he was still aware that Absalom could avenge for his sister against Amnon. Verse 27, "But Absalom urged him, so he sent with him Amnon and the rest of the king's sons." Absalom had to push David for the invitation rather than giving out the invitation by himself. Why? So that the king's sons would be forced to go. It would appear to be a mandate from the king. So his persistence worked. He pushed the king to approve the invitation. Did Amnon know that this was not David's event, but Absalom's? Well, he should have. But did he think that Absalom would not dare to avenge his sister Tamar? Perhaps he thought so, but he still went. Verse 28, Absalom ordered his men, "Listen, when Amnon is in high spirits from drinking wine, and I say to you, strike Amnon down, then kill him. Don't be afraid. Haven't I given you this order? Be strong and brave." Absalom was determined to kill Amnon. He told his men about his plan. They had to wait for Amnon to be drunk so that he would be helpless. Well, of course, the assistants would not be getting drunk with them. The command would come from Absalom. His men ought to be ready with their daggers. Absalom did not need to be near Amnon. His assistants would do that for him. Now, did Amnon sense that he was about to be murdered? Maybe not. When he was very drunk, he would not be able to think and act very well. Verse 29. So Absalom's men did to Amnon what Absalom had ordered. Then all the king's sons got up, mounted their mules, and fled. Oh, that was a very confusing and tense moment. Finally, Absalom's plan worked. He was waiting for this moment a very long time. All the anger that he had been keeping in himself burst out that night. It was a treacherous move. Amnon did not have a fighting chance. He was struck when he was not challenged. He was killed when he was not so conscious. He was murdered during a festivity, not in a time of war. So imagine at the chaos that ensued. Nobody thought that this joyous moment would turn bloody. The firstborn of the king is dead. He was killed at the hands of the host of the event, his very brother Absalom. At everybody's surprise, all the other sons of the kings had to flee. Their assistants probably woke them up and took them from their tables. Maybe some of them were still in shock, staring at the bloody body of Amnon. And this was unexpected. Rather than fighting back, since they were probably not armed and they were outnumbered by the men of Absalom, they had to quickly run. No time to fight or defend themselves. Absalom probably had so many men there around that they could not fight back. But the men did not kill anyone else. Well, except for perhaps a few assistants of Amnon who may have tried to defend their lord. Now, did Absalom feel justified when he did that? Was he shouting accusations against Amnon while Amnon was dying? Did all his anger come out there? Was he laughing at the dead body of Amnon? Was he cursing the man? Maybe. Now, did he send a message to Tamar about what he did? Probably. "Justice is served, my sister. Your abuser is dead. Finally." Now, did Absalom think about the consequences of his actions? He killed the king's firstborn son, his brother, and everybody saw it. He did not hide it from anybody. He killed him right before their very eyes. Well, maybe he threatened all his brothers, so that's why they fled. Well, did he think that David would also let him get away with this crime, as he did with Amnon? Maybe. Did he think he would be able to justify his action before the king? Well, we don't know. For Absalom, the important thing was to take revenge against Amnon. He would worry about the consequences later. So that's our lesson. Revenge does not solve offenses. Rather, this would worsen conflicts. If you are tempted to take justice into your own hands because it is difficult, long, and expensive to get one through the legal process, still you should resist repaying evil with evil. You will pay for your own mistakes and you will suffer. You will also get your loved ones involved in the trouble. You can get them into danger. Letter B, violence causes worries and uncertainties. So verses 30 to 36. David's heart broke as he lost his firstborn and all his sons. Well, he thought because of the false report that he would be receiving from the hands of Absalom. His house was crumbling, maybe worse than Shaul's. Verse 30. While they were on their way, the report came to David. Absalom has struck down all the king's sons. Not one of them is left. You know how important it was for kings to have sons, right? If something happens to the firstborn, someone else can take his place. Right? So we know that David has at least 19 sons from several wives. 6 born in Hebron, 13 born in Jerusalem. Plus many more from concubines. You'll find that in 1 Chronicles chapter 3 verses 1 to 9. So hearing all that his sons were killed by Absalom, that was very devastating. Losing one is bad enough. Losing all was the worst. Now, if he lost all his sons, how can his kingdom last forever, which the Yahweh promised him in chapter 7, verses 11 to 13. Let's read that. The Yahweh declares to you that the Yahweh himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Remember, the prophecy was the sword shall never depart from your house. So losing all his sons was not something that he ever imagined. Verse 31, the king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay on the ground. And all his attendants stood by with their clothes torn. They had to mourn with him. This was the worst day of David's life. Remember in 1 Samuel chapter 30, when the Amalekites raided the Negev and Ziklag, they captured his whole family and the family of his men. They were able to rescue them, losing not a single life. Now, everyone was dead because of Absalom in this case. Now, what else can David do? He already lost his unnamed son, conceived in adultery with Bathsheba. He could not eat for a week. Now here, it was worse. He tore his clothes and lay down on the ground because he thought he lost all his sons. Well, perhaps he regretted giving the blessing to let Absalom invite all his sons to the sheep shearing festivity. He might have thought, I knew it. Absalom was up to something. I was suspicious of him. I asked him, why did I give in to his persistence? It's all my fault. I fed them all as prey to their evil brother Absalom. So imagine the disbelief, the regret, and the self-condemnation of David. Verse 32, but Jonadab, son of Shim'ah, David's brother, said, my lord should not think that they killed all the princes. Only Amnon is dead. This has been Absalom's express intention ever since the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. My lord, the king should not be concerned about the report that all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead. Remember, Jonadab was David's nephew. He was the one who advised Amnon on how to have an opportunity to get Tamar, chapter 13, verse 5. Now, he appeared to be the bearer of good news. Only Amnon is dead, not all of them. However, Jonadab was implicating himself there. Look at the last statement of verse 32. This has been Absalom's express intention ever since the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. In other words, he knew the plan of Absalom from the very beginning. Though he was trying to explain and defend Absalom, he had prior knowledge of the crime. He could be implicated in the crime of Absalom. Even though Jonadab gave the better news, he pretended to be the comforter of David. Verse 34, meanwhile, Absalom had fled. Absalom was a coward. He did not face his father to explain himself. He knew he did terribly wrong. He knew his father could judge him and punish him for that. He anticipated that there would be vengeance from the side of Ahinoam, the mother of Amnon, from the city of Yitzrael, or in English, Jezreel, of the tribe of Yishakar. Well, if you were Absalom, what would you do? You probably would run away too. Still in verse 34. Now the man standing watch looked up and saw many people on the road west of him coming down the side of the hill. The watchman went and told the king, "I see men in the direction of Horonaim on the side of the hill." Wow, this was a very nervous part. Who were these men coming? They came from another direction. Verse 35. Jonadab said to the king, "See, the king's sons have come. It has happened just as your servant said." Again, he's trying to be the bearer of good news here. So David's sorrow was turning to hope. Jonadab was telling the truth and belying the false reports, the rumors. Verse 36. As he finished speaking, the king's sons came in, wailing loudly. The king too and all his attendants wept very bitterly. David was relieved seeing all his sons safe and sound. Perhaps he had mixed feelings. He was thankful that all his sons made it. And he wanted to hug them all. He wanted to be sure that he was not hallucinating, that they were all in fact alive. However, they all came wailing for the death of Amnon at the hands of Absalom. The firstborn is indeed dead. And perhaps he wanted to see the actual body of Amnon, to be sure that the report was true. With the testimony of all his sons about the death of Amnon, that was enough for him to believe that the tragic news was true. Now, losing a child is very painful, and I don't want to imagine it. I have children too. Losing an adult offspring is heartbreaking, even if it is just one of the many survivors. Losing the future leader of the clan was devastating. Remember how Egypt lost their firstborn in each family, including animals. When the Yahweh killed the firstborn of the Pharaoh, he was an adult, by the way, the future Pharaoh. Rameses II was forced to let the children of Israel go. I also remember how my grandfather mourned for the death of my mother, his firstborn of 13 children. My mother was the leader of all her siblings, even though they were all grown-ups. She was already 50 when she died of a vehicular accident as a passenger. So that's letter B. Violence causes worries and uncertainties. Absalom did not care about the consequences of his actions for his father, for their clan, for his own welfare and safety. Therefore, he had to run away. If there are internal conflicts within your family, let us try to settle them as soon as and the best way possible. Do not wait for your neighbors to get into your family affairs and make it their business. If we do not settle these well, some members of our families might lose their control and might act criminally. That will bring instability, further rift, bankruptcy, separation, imprisonment, sickness, fall of business, discontinuation of studies of the children, and so much more. We do not want internal conflicts to get worse. Run for several years and continue for several generations. So let us all humble ourselves before God and ask Him to heal our lives and our families. Letter C. Murder does not avenge, but it worsens. Verses 37 to 39. Absalom had to flee to his mother Maacah in the kingdom of Geshur to seek refuge and escape responsibility for murdering Amnon and possible avengers. Nothing good came out of his revenge. He broke everybody's heart. Verse 37, Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur. But David mourned many days for his son. Again, as our title says, David lost two sons. His firstborn son, Amnon, from murder, and his third son, Absalom, as fugitive. David never thought that that would be the last time he would see Amnon alive and Absalom also alive. Maybe at first, nobody knew where Absalom went until it was reported that he sought refuge in his mother's kingdom. How long did David mourn for Amnon? Assuming that Amnon was also the first to be born, not just chosen firstborn, usually the first to be born was the very special and most memorable one. As a father, to be able to have a child is a success. David had dreams for Amnon, but he's gone. Burying him was very painful. Children should be burying their parents, not the other way around. Now, who will succeed Amnon as firstborn? Well, soon we will find out it would be Shlomo. Now, the fourth in line, Adoniah, remember, Absalom was the third. Now, Adoniah proclaimed himself as king when David was dying. Joab and Abiathar the priest supported him. However, David called Bathsheba and ordained Shlomo to be the firstborn. Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet supported Bathsheba and Shlomo. You can see the whole story in chapter 1 of first book of Kings. Again, we do not know what happened to Kilab, the son of Abigail, the second in line among the sons of David. Verse 38, after Absalom fled and went to Geshur, he stayed there 3 years. Absalom was a fugitive for only 3 years because he would not be able to return to Jerusalem without a trial and punishment. We'll talk about that next week. Again, Geshur was the kingdom northeastern side of the Lake of Galilee. That was not that far. Verse 39, and King David longed to go to Absalom, for he was consoled concerning Amnon's death. David had not given up on Absalom. The Yahweh forgave David and canceled the death penalty for him. So perhaps the king wanted to do the same for his son Absalom, cancel the death penalty. Now, was David hoping to get back Absalom? Maybe. The author said David wanted to go to Geshur, not to bring him back to Jerusalem, because that would be trouble. Well, eventually, he has forgiven his son for murdering Amnon, but the family of Ahinoam, the mother of Amnon, may still be seeking justice for the death of their firstborn. Did David have plans of avenging Amnon's death? It didn't look like it. Has he forgotten to provide justice for Tamar? Well, the killing of Amnon was already the satisfaction for that. Indeed, these were confusing moments. So that's letter C. Murder does not avenge, but it worsens. Revenge is the natural urge of anybody who's been hurt. Many times, the people closest to us hurt us. Well, it's because we spend more time with them, and the probability of someone hurting us are the people with whom we have many interaction. Jesus forgave us all. We are all His offenders. Let us heed the advice of Peter in his first epistle, chapter 3, verse 9. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. So may you find the strength to resist revenge. Forgive before murder eats your heart and leads you to enact it. Imagine the worst things that could happen if you take matters into your own hands. Heed the word of the Yahweh in Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 35. It is mine to avenge, I will repay. So don't be the judge and executioner. So let go of it and let God. David loses 2 sons. A. Revenge does not resolve offenses. So think before you take revenge. Letter B. Violence causes worries and uncertainties. Therefore, do not let your anger turn to violence. And letter C. Murder does not avenge, but it worsens. If the damage has been done, prepare for the worst to come.